Do you have a business that serves your local community? Are you trying to take your business to the next level? Do you struggle to understand your business numbers? Well, stop working harder thinking you're going to make more money. That's not how it works. Each week, we go over how to understand and leverage your business numbers to not only create more sales, but more importantly, how to create more profits. Remember, it isn't about how much you sell. It's about how much you keep at the end of the day. My name is Tammy, and I'm on a mission to help badass business owners like yourself put more money in your pocket. So whether you're a badass or a badass in the making, let's get this party started. Hey, badass business owners, welcome back to the show. It is Thursday. That means it's Know Your Business Numbers. Today, I want to talk about something that people do not take advantage of, and you need to start taking advantage of that. And that is, you need to start graphing out your business. This is really, really helpful, especially once you have a year under your belt. And it's really simple to do. It's not like I'm going to make you grab some graph paper and do it yourself. You can actually do it in a computer, in Excel. You can do it by graph paper. There's no problem with doing that. It's really simple. You can do it even on a regular piece of paper. The key is what's most important isn't how pretty it looks. What's important is seeing those trends. And by the way, it doesn't even have to look like a graph. It could just be putting numbers stacked on top of each other. Okay. So don't make this more complicated than it needs to be. And here's why it's important. Every month is not created equal. And the problem is a lot of you go into each month acting as if it is. And the reality is it's not. Your sales are going to vary month to month. Your profits are going to vary month to month, and your expenses are going to vary month to month, because some months we just do more business than we do in other months. Now, there are some businesses that are more consistent, if you will, than others, but for most of us, we're going to have swings. Now, some are small swings and some are huge swings. So, for example, here in Arizona, if you have a pool company, it's going to go crazy during the summer months because everybody and their mother is in their pools if they have one. Whereas when you're in the winter months, they're not in it as much and they're probably not calling for your services as much. Same thing with an air conditioner. Air conditioner guys go crazy during the summer months and they die off during the winter months because we just don't get that cold. Whereas back east, you guys use your heaters like crazy and they go crazy during the HVAC people go crazy during the winter months and not so much during the summer months, unless you're in a hot, humid area. But every business kind of has that swing. Landscaping, you name it. Now, if you do something that's more service-based, it's kind of more level, it may not be as bad. If you've got a Christmas holiday rush, you're going to do good there. If you're tied into kids or school or those people, you know what? They tend to dip sometimes right when the school season is ending. And then when school starts, it actually stays dipped because everybody's focus is on getting their kids back into school. So everybody's going to have some kind of like ups and downs in some way, shape, or form. And the problem is, well, in your head, you're thinking, well, my expenses always run $5,000. Well, not really, because you have two types of expenses, right? We have fixed expenses that stay the same no matter what. For example, if you're rental of anything, it's going to stay the same. Your insurance is going to stay the same. You know, if you advertise the same way with one company and you got monthly payments, that's going to stay the same way. But for most people, you have other expenses called variable expenses, and those rise and fall based off of how busy you are because they're tied into a percentage of sales. So they might go up. For example, some payroll expenses will go up when you are in season because you're using a lot more payroll, working a lot more hours. So therefore, they might go up. Now, what changes with that, whether they're variable or they're not variable, is the percentage that it takes up. So if you think that, okay, on average, I use 25% of my expenses, well, some months it might be 35% and some months it might be 15%. By you dialing down and knowing by month where that falls, because you have this graphed out or you have it stacked, you're able to know those numbers. For example, if you have a business expense that stays the same at $1,000 and it's $1,000 whether it's January, July, October, it doesn't change. Well, if your sales go up, that $1,000 as a percentage is much smaller during some months. And if your sales tank, that $1,000 is huge and it's a very high percentage. So you need to kind of know what's going on with those percentages. By graphing things out and knowing those curves, you're able to identify where those opportunities are for you to make money and when you should be banking it. So, for example, you don't want your expenses, if your yearly average is 25%, in your busiest times, you don't want your expenses to be 25%. You want them to be much lower because you're going to need to be able to bank some money and put it in the bank for the months that your expenses run 25, 35, 40% because it's low. For example, when I had my ice cream shop, my expenses were at their highest because in a lot of cases, they ran 75%, if not more, because of just the dip in ice cream in January, for example, or December, and the fact that I had my rent that I had to pay, I had the ice cream I still had to buy, I had the employees I still had to pay, I still had 7 freezers and freezers, so my electric bill was still crazy. So I still had these very high expenses, but I just wasn't taking in as much ice cream sales. So my July sales, where I made lots of money, I knew I had to put that money aside. But because I was familiar with the percentage of sales by month, I was able to figure that out. And that's kind of where it starts. It starts at minimum with you knowing what percentage of your sales happen each month. Because like I said, unless you have one of those lucky businesses that are the same, most of the time you're not going to be that way. So for example, if we know 100% of our sales is what comes in for the year, right? 100%, and we're going to divide that by 12, that means that if it was a completely level business, you're doing about 8.3% of your sales month after month after month. That means the same chunk is coming out. Now, since we know that that's not what happens for you, some of you are going to have months down as low as 3%, 5%, and some of you are going to have some months that are like 10, 15, 20%. In some cases, you might be as high as 25, 30%, depending upon how seasonal your business actually is. And if you jump to a $50,000 month, for example, and your other months are 12, 13, you can see that huge swing that you're going to be able to have. Now, when I say graph it out, what I'm talking about is that you write down each month what your sales were and divide it by your annual sales. Because if you divide it by your annual sales, you're able to see what that percentage is. Now, it's harder when you have only half a year because you don't have that full year sales. You can guesstimate what it's going to be to kind of get a basics of your percentages. But once you have a full year under your belt, you're able to look at that. And you're able to then divide out, you know what, that I did $10,000. So for example, let's just say you did $12,000 in sales one month, right? And we're looking at last year and we're going, okay, in February, I did $12,000. And for the year, I did 185. So we would take the 12,000, divide it by the 185, and you'll see that your sales were actually 6.4% of your sales. And you just do month after month. You take the total month sales divided by the yearly sales number, and it's going to give you the percentages by month. Now, the reason that I say graph it out is you're going to be able to see what the graph looks like. You know how you have some peaks and you have some valleys? Well, guess what? Here's the cool thing. When you have multiple years and you stack them on top of each other, you're going to notice a trend. Your ups and your downs are going to be very similar to each other. That just tells you that's the way the business is going to flow for you. Now, I'm not saying you're not going to have a crazy month once in a while. For example, let's just say we'll just use Arizona, okay? We have monsoon season, which is, if you're not familiar with that, it just means that the skies open up, and for the month of June or July, there's this period of time where it's just tons of rain. Well, this year we've had none. So normally some businesses would drop off during that time frame, and if you stack it up, they're probably going to see kind of leveling off of their business because of all that rain. But guess what? Because it's been a beautiful, if it's 115, I don't know if that's beautiful, but because we haven't seen as much rain, those same businesses that are usually impacted by all that rain are not going to be as impacted because people can be outside, they can be driving around, it's not pouring rain, and it's not impacting that side of the business. Same thing for those of you that have severe storms. If you're back east, you guys have severe storms, right? Well, if you have a mild winter and you don't get as much snow, well, guess what? You're not going to die off as much as you normally would during severe blizzards that go on, or severe cold, or whatever the case may be. So when you have those extremes, it's going to screw it up. When you have less rain or more rain than you normally do, it's going to screw it up. But for the most part, if you stack year over year over year, you're going to see that trend. So now you can use it for forecasting your business as well. So for example, we'll talk about this when we get to the end of the year, but let's just say you're in November and December and you're trying to plot out what kind of sales and you're setting your goals for the next year. Well, if you know your sales by month percentage, for example, if you know it goes 4%, 6%, 8%, 20%, 20%, 20%, 10%, 11%, whatever, you're able to then say, I'm going to do 250,000 in sales. Then you can multiply it by the percentages by month, and you can break down what your goals are by month. Now, I know this is hard to do over a podcast, but hopefully you're going to be able to see the value in graphing out your business by stacking it, by writing them out. Like I said, you can do this as simple as a piece of paper where you just write down January, February, March, April, May, right across the whole front of the page, turn the page sideways, write that out, and then write down each year, go back and write down what you did in sales, go down and write down what you did in expenses and cost of goods and profits. You can break your entire P&L down and you're able to look at it. And by the way, speaking of which, if you had a P&L, it would tell you that information on the P&L. But for now, since a lot of you guys are still getting up to speed on all of that stuff, just grab that piece of paper, turn it sideways, and figure it out. I challenge you to know what your percentages are by month when it comes to your sales, your cost of goods, your expenses, and your profits. What do you typically do? There's nothing more fun than comparing this year to last year. So if you know that you're going to, for example, this is when I think on the last episode, we were talking about empty pockets and why you don't have any. Well, if you're not looking at last year's information and seeing that you had to come out of the pocket, $2,000 to keep the business afloat, then you've got to keep in mind you're going to do the same thing this year by having those graphs all done. So I really want you guys to start thinking this way of knowing by month what your percentages are. Graph it out. If you know how to use graphs and you know how to use Excel and create them, great, even more power to you. If you have a bookkeeping system or a system you use online like QuickBooks or anything like that, they usually have an option for you to be able to pull out the graphs as well. But worst case, if that's not you, you don't know any of that stuff, grab a kid. Just kidding. Grab somebody. You might know somebody who can help you do that. But if you don't even have all that information, it's just you and you're technically challenged, then all you got to do is you can get that piece of paper and you can write all that out yourself. Graphs and graphing out and stacking stuff is an amazing tool for you to have in your tool belt because it's really going to help you run your business better. It's going to help you be prepared for those ebbs and flows, for those ups and downs in your business. It's going to help you better prepare for them and to be able to make things happen. All right. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping this puppy up. Once again, if you want to learn how to dive in and understand your business numbers better, don't forget over at knowyourbusinessnumberscourse.com. It's also in the show notes. It's a nice, cheap course for you to be able to go through and start learning your business numbers. I've kept it that way on purpose. I want you to be able to understand your business numbers because to me, it's very important as a business owner. You can't grow your business and you can't put more money in your pockets if you don't understand your business numbers. So you can either go over to the YouTube channel. If you actually go YouTube/training for local small business owners, it'll take you to the YouTube page. It's also in the show links. I'm screwing this all up. You can tell I was not prepared to say this. I'm doing this one off the cuff. Go down there and look for that. But there's all kinds of free training on it. I'm making a commitment to do even more videos for everybody to help you understand this. And like I said, there is the course you can also go do. It's pretty inexpensive. And I want you to understand your business numbers. And this graphs and graphing things out are just one way that you can really get ahead of your business and understanding the flow of the business in and out and being prepared for it. All right. With that, I am going to get out of here and I will talk to you on the next episode. Bye for now. Hey, before you go, if you're looking to learn more about your business numbers, then check out the Know Your Business Numbers course, where we take a deeper dive into the key numbers, the calculations, the reports that will help you take your business to the next level. My mission is to help everyone love their business numbers. Yes, even including those of you that hate math. So much profit is hidden inside of your business numbers, and I want you to create some awesome profits. So check out the link in the show notes or head on over to the KnowYourBusinessNumbersCourse.com. Once again, KnowYourBusinessNumbersCourse.com. Come join me. Let's go ahead and work on building your profits.